What is up, everybody? Welcome back to an evening edition of the NBA Rundown as we've got the crack college basketball crew in here today ready to break down the NBA draft. We got Steve, Tyler, and Gavin with us. Tyler, how you doing? You ready to do some draft talk here?
Yeah, I mean, it's been, a week since we did one of these, since the NBA Finals finished off. Now we get some draft talk, talked a couple props that I like. Other than that, I mean, just get ready for NFL season.
Yeah, and you guys did a lot more heavy lifting during the college season than I did, so I'm really happy to have you guys on. Steve, I know that you did some intricate prep for this. You ready for the show today?
Yeah, I was fired up. Haven't really looked at much college basketball stuff in the last couple months. Being down in the dregs with day-to-day MLB just really kind of weighs you down. So it was good to kind of take a step back from that for a couple hours, dig into the draft stuff, and just kind of put my thoughts down on paper on all these college guys that we're going to be passing off to you, Thursday night.
Yep. So, Gavin, another California guy. Are you excited to go ahead and break some of these down? Have you found any good spots we like, Gavin?
Yeah, it's, I just wait until my number's called, MMA and college basketball. It's good to be here. Appreciate you having me. And, yeah, this is probably my most passionate sport, at least talking to a lot of these college guys. So let's get into it.
All right. Well, let's start pretty normal up top, or not a lot of controversy here. I'm going to go off the mock draft from The Athletic by Sam Vecini, who I think is a very good writer, and I've heard a couple podcasts with him. A good guy here, and he's got Cade Cunningham going number 1. I don't think that's a big surprise. Tyler, do you want to go ahead and just give a quick idea of what do you think Cade Cunningham translates to the NBA? I mean, I thought that he might be able to be like a top 5 player within the next 5 years. Am I being too optimistic?
I mean, that's really pushing it top 5. I mean, maybe like top 15.
Okay.
He checks all the boxes for everyone says. Like, he rebounds, he plays defense, he's got a shot, he could set up his offense. It's like the guy's really good, but I read a couple scouting reports. It's like he doesn't do anything like numbers-wise that blows you off the table. Like his numbers, when you match him up against every other like prospect that's came out in the last like 10, 15 years, you would never guess who he lines up with. OJ Mayo. Would you take OJ Mayo with the first pick?
Oh, God, I'm having PTSD.
Yeah, right. The USC guy.
Oh, God.
Sticking it to Gavin with only less than 3 minutes in the show, Tyler. I like it.
Sorry, Gavin. But yeah,
Steve,
I think he'll be a stud. But
yeah, I think he's going to be a stud too.
Sure,
obviously, top 5, I'm stretching it. But hey, this guy's supposed to be a generational talent. This is the best draft I think that I've broken down since at least 2014. So I'm really excited to see how he turns out. What do you think, Steve? Like top 5, top 10, or do you think that maybe there's some bust potential here?
Yeah, I mean, it's saying something that you're pretty much the consensus number 1 guy in such a strong draft, especially at the top. I mean, he is just like a huge lead guard. He's like 6'8", great scorer and rebounder. He's a willing passer, which I think is important for what his role is going to be in the NBA. Just really like a matchup nightmare type of guy, no matter where you put him. And then almost most importantly, he's really a guy who wants the ball in his hands when it counts. He showed that a bunch towards the end of the season at Oklahoma State. Was just money in big spots, carried them for a while when they had some injuries. He was a better 3-point shooter than I thought he was going to be. He ended the season right around 40%. Reminded me kind of like a Jason Tatum in college. A guy who has blossomed to like a top 15-ish player in the NBA. So, I think that he's that type of talent, really comfortable with the ball in his hands for a big guy.
Yeah, Gavin, what do you think? I mean, I'd say that the major drawback, right, is for a number 1 pick doesn't have that standout athleticism, like maybe even we saw last year with Anthony Edwards. But how do you project Cade Cunningham in the NBA, Gavin?
Yeah, I think the one thing about him that kind of puts me over the edge for Jalen Green is that you can put a guy like Cade Cunningham next to a Jalen Green. Say for instance, the Pistons are drafting in the top 3 in the next couple of years, and there's a really strong ball dominant point guard. You can easily place Cade Cunningham alongside him. He can be a number 2 ball handler. He can be a number 1 if your 1 is getting rested. There's a couple different roles that he can play, and I think his floor is really like a third option on a championship level team with, upside to be one of the top players. I don't think he's going to need a ton of athleticism with the type of shot making that he has.
Yeah. So I can't wait to see how he turns out. And if I was a Detroit Pistons fan, be pretty happy to be adding him to my roster. Definitely the first glimmer of hope for that franchise, I'd say, in the last 10 years. Tyler, Sam Vecini has your guy, Jalen Green, going number 2 in the draft. But you think Jalen Green is going to be the best player in this draft, don't you?
I mean, the more I look at it, you could argue any of these 3 with Cade, Jalen Green, and the next guy we'll talk about, Evan Mobley. But me personally, with the way the NBA's played today, I think Jalen Green's going to be, like, if you had to pick one guy who's going to be in the top 10 to 15 players in like 5 years, I'm picking Jalen Green. The scoring's there. The defense will come along. The kid's tall. He's lanky. He can fill the lanes and steal passes. His perimeter defense will come. The shot creation he has, he gets separation on the shots. He's super athletic. He's basically Zach LaVine, I'd say, but I think he's even better. And you're going to put him next to Kevin Porter Jr., who can also create his own shot. I think that's a perfect scenario for him to fall into.
Yeah, and it's going to be pretty good for Christian Wood if that ends up being the pick there. Getting a lot of attention on the perimeter. He should get a lot of single coverage and a lot of nice open looks as those guys attract a lot of gravity of the opposing defenses. Steve, what do you think of Jalen Green? Did you share Tyler's high hopes?
Yeah, so definitely don't know as much about the G League guys as the college. The one thing I will say, so that, there is a pretty consensus top 4 here. I like Suggs the second most, who we'll talk about fourth. But the one thing that I noted with the top 4 guys, Cade, Suggs, and Mobley are all already really good defenders. We don't know yet on Green. We think that he's going to develop into that. So that would be my only concern taking him over Mobley and Suggs is, if he turns out and his ceiling is like a high level scorer, but he's not a good defender, is that a championship level player?
All right. Gavin, is he on number 2 on your big board? Do you think that Jalen Green rightfully should go number 2?
Look, I'll be honest in saying I didn't watch 1 minute of those G League guys,
okay.
So I'm not going to touch too much on it. I'm a Mobley guy, being SC and whatnot, and but yeah, I mean Green is solid. He's his upside as a scoring prospect from everything that I've read as we've seen in a while. So but it's still a pan out project. He's still got a ways to go.
Yeah, I expect him to score no matter what. So it'll just be if he can get those other things in. If he can, it seems to be like an all-star for sure. So we'll start with you on the next one, Gavin. Number 3 on most people's big boards and most mock drafts has Evan Mobley going to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Tough franchise for your guy to go to, but give us a quick breakdown of Evan Mobley, Gavin, and what you expect from him in the NBA.
Yeah, we're throwing him to the wolves in terms of that franchise, but
yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a 7-footer that can play at all 3 levels, from being able to pick and pop to rim run. He is an elite rim protector. I mean, he's probably the closest thing to Anthony Davis that we've seen in a long while. And typically when you have these Bambi-like 7-foot skinny guys, freshmen coming out of college, a lot of times the coordination and the footwork really isn't there. But Mobley's dad being a head coach, you can tell he's extremely fundamentally sound. And part of that footwork is why he's able to be such a good defender. He doesn't put himself in bad spots to pick up a lot of fouls and stays in position for rebounds as well. I mean, he's the complete package, and it's more of a flavor of the week in terms of, you want more of kind of a guard-centric team, or do you want to play kind of inside out? But he provides you everything you need and more from a 5. And if he could put on at least a little bit of size, he's only going to be that much more dangerous.
Yeah, Steve, so from the stuff that I read, the main concern from Mobley, they said that his floor might be quality starter. And for him to just be an all-star, a true star, it'll be the development of an offensive repertoire. Would you agree? And do you expect him to be able to score on the offensive end in the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, he's, like Gavin said, you can tell that the natural talent is there even the shooting talent for a guy his big or of his size? I think he's going to start to shoot more threes. If he does add that, then the upside is just massive. That's a two-way superstar if he can consistently hit threes, which I think that he will. He's the best interior defender in the draft, I think. He's able, like Gavin said, to guard without fouling. He was one of the bigs in college that we could rely on for DFS because he was playing the whole game, never got into foul trouble, very disciplined. And then he's also like a willing and excellent passer from the post, which is something that you don't see a ton in college. So for him to already show that as part of his skill set, I think is huge. Just massive upside with the pick. It sucks that he's going to be in Cleveland.
Yeah, I feel bad for him to go there too. Tyler, you answered this in the chat, but for those people just listening on the audio, I'll go ahead and read it out, and you can answer on the show and then give your breakdown and expectations of Mobley. Trent, I grabbed Evan Mobley to get picked third at plus 150 2 weeks ago. I usually don't bet on the draft at all. Should I keep it or hedge? What's your answer to that one, Tyler? And then go ahead and give us a Mobley breakdown.
I think you ride that play out. I think that play's a winner. Because even if the Cavs, for some reason, trade out of this pick, which there are rumors of them doing that, I think there's two teams that possibly come up. OKC comes up to number 3 and gets one of the top 3 names in this draft to pair with SGA, or Golden State takes a swing and comes up and gets Mobley. The second one I don't think is really realistic with James Wiseman on the Warriors roster, so I think it's just more of OKC wanting to come up. Either way, the pick's going to be Mobley. No one's coming up to take Suggs over Mobley. I mean, this dude, would it surprise me if in 5 years we're talking about him as a top 3 big in the league? Not really. I mean, he could do everything. I think the jump shot's going to improve instantly because I don't think he was taking as many jump shots as he should have been. And I also read a scouting report that had me thinking they almost described him as an oversized 3 and a 4 instead of a center. And you use him almost like Kevin Durant.
Yeah, he has that fluidity about his game,
Yeah, he can move with it, just like you guys said. He's got the footwork already. He's not like a stone-footed big out there. He can move. I think he's going to be really good.
Gavin, you want to jump in and talk about him running maybe as more of a perimeter 3 or 4 guy? Is that plausible?
3. I just don't see why you would need him as a 3. That lineup would just be so big. I can't imagine 2 other guys playing a more, post-centric role. Now, you mentioned the development of an offensive scoring game. If you had to find one knock on him, maybe the back to the basket game wasn't as polished as you would like, but also that had to do with the fact that he never really, like Jahlil Okafor, he had to just post his big fat butt down in the paint at Duke and then just go to work. Mobley, you had to guard Mobley on every point, underneath the 3-point line. And so it was never like, oh, I'm just going to go post up here, play in and play out. There's a lot of different spots he can score from. 4, especially if you have a big that is not as outside centric, say, for instance, the team has Isaiah Jackson or something, the Kentucky guy we'll get on later, who's much more of a kind of within 10-foot kind of big man. You could easily play Mobley as a 4, kind of more perimeter centric. But I don't know why you would do 3. I think 4 definitely for sure.
All right. And let's just talk about this going into our breakdown of Jalen Suggs, who most mocks have going at number 4. Connor Butler wanted to talk about this as a play. I saw it at Bovada at minus 175. Steve, you said it's at FanDuel at minus 132. I think at minus 132, you've got to play this. But it's the first 4 exact order: Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, Jalen Suggs. Steve, I know you're really high on Jalen Suggs, so let's start with you. Is there any way that this is a huge smokescreen and you think the Houston grabs Suggs? If they did, what type of player are they getting and why would they do that?
I don't see them doing it. It's what I would do. But again, I'm more of a college guy and I just love Suggs' game. It is just perfect for the current NBA. This is like the toughest guard in the country, I think. He's he's not super tall, but he's well built. He's got to be 200 plus pounds. Just incredible athleticism. The basketball IQ is off the charts. He's so deadly in transition. Just an amazing passer, decisive player, and really a bulldog defensively. He's going to force a ton of turnovers just because his defensive IQ is so high. Big time steal upside. If you're for our purposes, like a fantasy guy, he averaged a bunch of steals. Gets to the rim at ease. Lots of slashing, scoring, and transition is what Gonzaga did a lot. He's just going to fit in perfectly. The only two knocks, I guess you could say, you could worry that he's not like a 6'5" point guard. I think he's 6'3", and then he's not yet an elite shooter. He shot about 35%. But if you can improve a bit from that, do
you know what his free throw was? His free throw percentage?
No, I don't. I can pull it up while Gavin's talking about him. But
because isn't that kind of indicative? Isn't that something they like to use? Yeah.
Yeah. So so that's the only knock, is that he's not an elite 3-point shooter yet. But I think this is a guy with huge upside. The game comes easy to him, and I think he's going to be an exciting player for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I put him number 1 on my draft board after that full court bounce pass, but obviously I'm not a real scout. I'm just a highlight guy. Gavin, what do you think about this top 4? Do you think that this is worth a play if you have FanDuel and you can get it at -130?
Yeah, it was plus 134 yesterday on FanDuel when I saw it. I can't bet on FanDuel.
Oh, wow.
So I couldn't bet it.
60 cents in a day?
Yeah. 64, I guess, would be but
yeah.
The thing is, I don't like taking these bets that have 4 to 5 to 6 plus options baked in, because the vig and the holds is implied, and it's so much greater than kind of a two-sided bet. Unless you have a really good angle on something, I tend not to bet those in, because you're essentially betting a 4-leg parlay.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Leaves a lot up in the air. Does it end up being the right order? Probably. I wouldn't fault anybody if they wanted to make the bet to get some action down, but I don't know if I'm jumping at the bit to bet it at -130.
Got it. Tyler, if I came on here just to rile you up and I said Jalen Suggs is going to be better than Jalen Green, what would you What would you say? What would be your response?
I mean, he's fallen into a perfect situation. He should put up numbers instantly. I mean, Toronto's going to walk right back into the playoffs next year. He probably just walks in and assumes that Kyle Lowry role. And I mean, if I had to pick a comp for him, like in the NBA right now, he's Drew Holiday. The defense is there. The jumpers are going to slowly gain. He can play in transition. He's probably the best transition passer in the entire draft this year. So, I mean, he's going to be really good. But I just think Green's scoring is just so much better. And as for that bet, that's now -130. If you were a Run Pure Bet subscriber, you would have got that bet at even money that I put it on the sheet a week ago.
All right. Well, you love to see it. And didn't have that same number at Bovada, but I am on that bet as well. All right. So the first 4, there's not a lot of debate, right? But now we're really going to mix things up and get a lot of varied opinions. And this next guy that they have mocked, so we're going off of, just a reminder, we're using Sam Vecini's mock draft from theathletic.com. He has Scotty Barnes going number 5 to the Orlando Magic, which to me is wild in this year's draft, only because there's so many super talented players. It's just so surprising to me that you're going to take a guy with this much questions surrounding his shot. And we watched in the NBA this year as teams that played players that could not get shots off got crushed, because the NBA's got no problem just ignoring you if you can't shoot, right? We saw these issues with the Warriors and Draymond Green and other teams that we watch. I can't think of them off the top of my head.
Simmons.
Ben Simmons is another great example. So
I don't even watch the NBA. I know that guy sucked in the playoffs.
Well, Gavin, you watched Florida State here. So what do you think of Scotty Barnes going 5? Is this crazy, or am I just missing or maybe underrating his ability to develop that jump shot?
I don't know. I'm not the biggest Scotty Barnes guy. Look, the thing is that you know exactly what you're going to get in terms of, at worst, he's going to be an elite defender with some, ball handling upside that, can slash and transition a little bit. Yeah, does the shot form? I don't know. It honestly wasn't the prettiest jump shot when he would watch it. Now that also you can, Lonzo Ball got drafted and you can tear that down, but you're drafted.
Can I jump in there real quick? The difference
Yeah.
though is Lonzo had the ugly shot, but he was shooting 40%.
True.
So it was going in even though it was ugly. Whereas Scotty's is ugly and it's not going in.
Yeah, that's what surprises me is like just off the back of this whole Ben Simmons thing that everybody is just goo-goo about Scotty Barnes. Like, man, if you don't see, shades of Ben Simmons in him, I don't really know what you're looking at. But yeah, for what he is, he's going to be a much higher motor defender than, Simmons ever will be. But yeah, he doesn't really have kind of that alpha mindset or intangible quality that someone like a Davion Mitchell is going to have. So, he's probably a solid role player, never really a main one or two guy on a team, but I don't know. That's me personally.
Yeah, Steve, and we talked about it before you went on, and you can expand upon it. The one thing that they're liking about Barnes more than Simmons is supposedly his work ethic and the intangibles is a lot better than what we saw from Ben at LSU. My idea, though, is if you're the Orlando Magic and you're trying to turn this thing around, I want to take a high ceiling guy. I don't know if I'm going to just take a plug and play defender, but what do you think of Scotty Barnes? And jump in on the Simmons comparison, and what should we expect if he ends up in Orlando?
Yeah, I think the Simmons comparison, is good. I think the difference is, he just wasn't asked to do a ton at Florida State. We saw it last year. Florida State is a place where guys know that they're going to go and they might not start and they're going to play 18 to 22 minutes and they're going to get up, 6 shots a game. So, there's not a lot of room for these guys to really develop their offensive games just because they are part of, a 10-man rotation, which in college is pretty rare. So clearly there's something going on with his workouts and what's happened since the season, making him rise. I'm not completely sold on it. I'm with Gavin. I think, at least the floor is, a long-term defensive elite stopper. He can switch well due to his size. He's really, really long, huge wingspan. But yeah, I'm not sold on the shot. Gavin and I both weren't huge Scotty Barnes guys in college, so pretty surprising to see him up top at number 5.
All right, and Tyler, you can jump in with this question from Jay. Is there value in taking Barnes over 5.5 at 275, or do you think that he's going to Orlando? How do you think he projects? I just can't believe that a guy that shot this poorly going into this new make or miss league where the game's decided behind the 3-point line is being touted so highly, especially in a draft. I mean, there's a couple shooters behind him. So what are you expecting here?
I wouldn't take that bet on Barnes to go over 5.5 because I just think this is such a Magic pick to make. I mean, they love their big wings out of Florida State. Jonathan Isaac's another one that they drafted. But looking at their roster, you're going to plug this guy in that can't shoot with Markelle Fultz, can't shoot. Chuma Akiki can kind of shoot, but he's very streaky. Michael Carter-Williams can't shoot. And Cole Anthony, streaky shooter. It's like this team is just building themselves into almost like a box to where they're not going to be able to produce much other than like 100 points a game. There's going to be no offense. And with Scotty Barnes, I don't want to draft a guy that can't shoot. You could tell me all you want. He's going to develop a jump shot. I'm not going to believe in that with what we've seen from some of the guys in the NBA. Yeah, his work ethic might be better, but he could try his ass off and still never develop that jump shot to where now he's just a defender and a high energy player. Do you really want to draft that guy at number 5? I wouldn't.
Who would you take at 5 if you're the Magic and the 4 that we all expect to be off the board were there? Who's your number 5 on your board?
With the way their team's built, they need a star. I think you have to take the swing on Kuminga and hopefully his motor good. Like he's actually a high energy player. He actually cares. And some of them down spots in the G League were just him on back-to-back nights, off nights, and stuff like that.
Steve, same question. If you were at number 5, who would you take, assuming the first 4 that we all expect to be off the board are off the board?
I would go for two of the guys that I think are going to go in the back half of the top 10, James Bouknight and Moses Moody. I'm a huge Moses Moody guy. He's coming into the league. Well, we can talk about him then, but
all right, we'll talk about him then.
I wouldn't go Barnes.
Gavin, how about you? If you were at 5, and you were the Orlando Magic, who would you take?
I don't know who the hell would fit into the Orlando Magic team because I couldn't name 3 guys on the roster, but Bouknight is an absolute just machine and one of those alpha scorers that I think translates really well. If you want to pick that is going to land and do well, I don't think Franz Wagner would be the worst idea here. I mean, he's a much more versatile piece than someone like a Jonathan Isaac. And the note I have about Franz, and we'll get to him, but those are the 2 guys. I'll leave that, and those are probably the 2 guys I would look at for that spot.
All right, and let's just go straight to Bouknight right now. He is mocked to number 6 at the Oklahoma City Thunder. Tyler, do you think that Sam Vecini's right there? Do you think that the Thunder will go with Bouknight, or do you think we'll see someone else here?
I personally don't think he's right because, I mean, we've seen it for the past couple of years. Nobody knows what this Thunder team's doing outside of the guys in the front office. I think they're mulling a trade to try and come up and get Mobley. They've also just put out the rumor that they might even trade SGA. So, I mean, we really don't know what this team's doing. Looking at the way they're built, do you really want to add Bouknight, who's only 6'5", to a backcourt of SGA and Dort? Because now you're kind of limiting your size with those first 3 positions. You play a big team, you're going to get dominated. Kuminga's barely 18 years old. He should be in this next coming draft, but he reclassified. That just rubs me as the OKC pick here. A high upside guy that they can just mold into what they want him to be.
All right. What do you think of Bouknight here, Steve? And do you think that he would fit in there with the Thunder? I mean, the kid can score, right? Probably one of the best scorers we're going to talk about all day today.
Yeah, I mean, this is your prototypical just pure scorer, great slasher. He didn't shoot it as well this past year in college. He was hurt for a while, and then I think probably came back a little too soon. You kind of really needed him there for a push late. And, he had to carry a pretty big load there. I think that, at the absolute floor, he's like a spark plug, awesome 6-man scorer. But I think that he is going to really be good. And he's not the best defender. He's the worst of obviously the top 6, just because that's why those guys are going top 4, because they're great defenders. But I think that the upside for Bouknight to become a star is pretty high, just because of his scoring upside and kind of the flair that he plays with. Just an exciting guy to watch.
Yeah, and I'm noticing, Gavin, looking around on these books, a lot of them have Bouknight at under 7.5, but like Bet Online or bookmakers minus 220 for under 7.5. So they don't see him getting past the Warriors. Talk to me a little bit as a guy that didn't watch him a lot, but obviously watched a ton of Warriors. How do you think that he would fit in on that high-powered offense if somehow he did slip and end up at 7?
Steve kind of hit on it in terms of he didn't shoot as well as you might have thought in terms of an efficiency standpoint, but apparently he went pretty nuclear on a shooting display for all his pre-draft workouts and combine stuff, which kind of shot him up. He's a guy that he excels in the pick and roll. He can play one-on-one, if it gets late into the shot clock, scores at all 3 levels. Frankly, he's probably a better shot maker than Cade Cunningham is, in all honesty. I think he's the best college shot maker in the draft. My worry about Bouknight is how does he translate if he is going to start in the NBA? He has to be the lead guard. I really worry about if he has to play the 2 and isn't the ball dominant guard, how his game translates. Because we just didn't see him do really any kind of catch and shoot stuff at Connecticut. Everything, the ball was in his hands on the offensive end. And secondly, UConn had multiple elite level defenders where Bouknight could kind of just hang out on defense and not really do anything. I don't really know what kind of defender he is, frankly. He's a little bit thin. He's 6'5", but he is thin. He had a couple injuries, so maybe there's durability concerns. the one injury he had in the year was kind of a freak. He fell down going up in the basket and fell on his elbow and basically broke his elbow and was out for 7 weeks. So it's not something that you really worry about going forward, but the kid is an elite level shooter. He gives me a lot of Lou Williams vibes.
All right. And I know you guys didn't watch a lot, but mocked at 7. And I mean, I think this would be a fantastic fit for the Warriors if he were to fall here. Kuminga. I mean, if they end up just getting either Bouknight or Kuminga here, I mean, what a spot to be in for a team turning it around. Tyler, I know that you watch. Oh, Tyler just jumped off. You guys didn't watch as much Kuminga though, but I was pretty excited about what I watched from when I watched the G League. When the first couple of games, he actually looked better than Jalen Green. He kind of regressed a little bit as the season went on, and Jalen Green started to grow into his role. From your guys' limited knowledge of him, do you expect Kuminga to be a great NBA player, or is this a real project? Start with you, Steve.
I don't know a ton about him. I would be concerned about the shot, just taking him so high. We just talked about Barnes going 5, knowing that he is an elite defender, so he has that to fall back on.
Yeah.
I would be concerned that Kuminga is not elite in anything, and you're using top 7 pick on someone that doesn't have one elite trait.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. What do you
Don't
think,
the Warriors have 2 first-round picks?
Yeah, they're gonna have 7 and 14.
So if I was the Warriors, I would be completely fine with taking the swing on Kuminga, because the guys that you're going to see in the 14 range, there are several very high floor prospects, whether it's going to be Franz Wagner, Moses Moody, Davion Mitchell, Chris Duarte. There are several prospects that you have limited to no concern about bust potential. If you really want to try for the high ceiling pick early on, those guys will be available. And I think probably that might be the way that they go. But what the hell do I know about the NBA?
No, I mean, I think you're right. There's so many plug and play guys that are going to be available at 14, and I mean the way that this draft is so deep.
Where all of those guys, a lot of those guys would be a stretch at 7, but they all would make sense at 14. Right. Just because of the ceiling, the kind of inherent ceiling of all those guys just make a lot more sense end of the lottery versus middle.
All right, Steve, in the Athletic Sam Vecini mock draft, he has Moses Moody going to the Magic, which will upset most of the people that I talk to that are Kings fans, because the Moody mob is strong in Sacramento. We're hoping he falls to 9, and I'm thinking that we pick him if he's there. What do you think about Moses Moody? And do you think that he's going to be on the Magic here, or do you think he falls a little farther?
Well, I'm upset that someone's trying to steal Gavin and I's thunder for being the number 1 Moses Moody fans. We loved him all season. He was a freshman on a team that had a ton of really good players. And what you saw from Arkansas was they played Moses Moody the entire game and then rotated 8 other guys about 22 minutes just because he was so good you couldn't take him off the court. So with the way that Musselman runs that system, for him to show that he had the confidence in playing Moody the entire game when basically everyone else on the team was an upperclassman, and he was playing them 20 to 25 minutes and playing Moody 38, says a lot to me. As a player, he's already a really good shooter and a good defender. So, his absolute floor is a 3-and-D guy. I think that he's going to be a lot more than that. He has a great feel for the game. I think that he's kind of being pigeonholed as a 3-and-D guy by some draft experts. And, I think that he's a good scorer around the rim and the mid range. He's not the most aggressive scorer though. He's not a Bouknight who's looking to shoot the ball 25 times a game. So I think that would be my one concern is, does he have the killer instinct to be like an elite player, kind of a more quiet guy, and did not really have a good NCAA tournament. I think if he went into the tournament and had a couple big games, I think that he would be, a lock for the top 6 or 8, which is why, I had him at number 5. But he just didn't play well for a 3-game stretch.
Yeah, well, hey, that could end up being good for the Sacramento Kings. And I could be wrong here because I've listened to so many and just crammed all my draft prep. But didn't he, of all the prospects in the top 20, didn't he that played NCAA? Didn't he have one of the highest 2-point shooting percentages?
Yeah, so he's
I don't understand where this 3
I think he can
came
score all over the court.
Yeah.
But I've been reading a bunch of 3 and D fit, and I just think that that's kind of putting him into a box where I think he can be a lot more than that.
Yeah, I kind of felt that because he's not like, just blowing by guys and doing, wild dunks and real spectacular layups.
Yeah. He's more of a
discounting his
field
ability
scorer,
to score. Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
the dunk 2 points is the same
Yeah.
as the turnaround jumper. Gavin, what do you think? I mean, I think I already know, but Moody, hey, if I'm a Kings fan, I want him to fall to 9, but not too likely, huh?
I don't know. Steve said it that Moses brought us home the bacon in college basketball DFS. But the more I kind of thought about it, you had Arkansas is probably the most ideal system for the type of game that Moody plays, right? It's a very spaced out slash and kick style of game where he got a lot of spot up threes. And he's the type of scorer where, think about it, every additional dribble that he makes, he's going to be less effective. So if he's catching a ball and taking 2 dribbles to his left and pulling up, yeah, he's going to be fine. And having that high a 2-point percentage, he was not a big slasher. He's taking a lot of mid-range stuff. And so, yeah, he's a legitimate scorer, but I worry a little bit about the lack of twitchiness and athleticism. How does it translate? Is he easier to stay on and not have to worry about getting blown by for other guys? I don't know. I'm a little bit more skeptical than I was kind of as I thought about it, because it's easy to say, yeah, he's good, lock him in, but trying to think about where it could go wrong. I think that is really the only issue. But he fits into a lot of lineups, versatile, flexible piece that could be useful for a lot of different clubs.
All right, and this show might go pretty long, so I'll go ahead and give out a best bet now, and I'll repeat it at the end. But on Bovada right now, you can get Moses Moody in the top 10 for plus 150. If you only make one bet on the draft, that is the one that I personally suggest. I don't see that there's any way. I think the Warriors will be interested in him. The Magic have a great shot, and of course the Kings. So that's my favorite bet of the draft there, is him to go into the top 10. And let's talk about a guy that you guys had touched on earlier, and if we're now at my spot for my team, the Sacramento Kings. And when I originally looked at the mocks, I said, I don't want Franz Wagner, right? And then I started watching some of his games, watching the highlights, and then imagining how he would fit in on this team. I'm actually not against this pick. If some of these other guys that we really like, the Moody, the Kumingas, these guys are off the board. I actually think that Wagner's one of those real high floor guys. He just seems like he's a contributor regardless. Is he going to be a contributor as a starter? Will he be a bench player, or will he be a high level a starter? What do you think, Steve? Is he going to go ahead and turn the league around?
I find it tough to believe that he's going to be a bust. I think that he's a super high floor guy, really versatile. He's bigger than you would think. He's like 6'9". The game comes really easy to him. Yet I think the best thing I could say about him is he has an excellent balanced game. Probably not any elite skill, but no skill that's less than above average. He really crashes the glass. Ton of rebounds at Michigan, so a willing rebounder's nice. Really crams the stat sheet. Going to be a good fantasy guy. I think he can be a secondary ball handler. He handled the ball a ton for that team, for a big guy. I think he can probably guard 2 to 4 in the NBA and be above average doing it, which makes him pretty valuable and a safe pick. I think that he deserves to go in the top 10, and I'm glad that he's being mocked just because he was a guy that we were high on pretty much all season.
Tyler, your thoughts on Franz Wagner? And I see under 9.5. minus 177 on Bookmaker. These guys making the books do not think that Wagner gets past the Sacramento Kings. What do you think? Does he come in and help my hopeless, pathetic franchise that I root for?
I mean, this has the Kings pick written all over it, doesn't it? I mean, he's been
Yeah.
plugged in there. Every mock draft I've seen, he's been their guy. So, I mean, he seems like the perfect fit for them. They'll plug him in at the small forward spot, but his brother wasn't all that impressive. I don't see it with him either. So, I mean, he could be
he's way better than his brother.
Yeah, I think he's definitely better, but I just don't see much out of either of them. Like, I don't know. I'm not very big on either of them.
All right, Gavin, talk to me. If draft night's here and Franz Wagner is coming to Sacramento, how should I feel about adding him to the franchise I root for?
That he'll probably be there as long as the Sacramento Kings want him there, because he's going to be solid. There's probably not a starting five that the Kings are going to have over the next, say, 10 to 15 years, if he's there for that long, that he would not fit in one way or the other. I think he could play shooting guard, and I think he could end up playing small ball 5 if he ends up putting a little bit of beef on himself. Because he is a little bit thin for being 6'9", but like 2 through 4, he's super solid right now. He's a good shooter. Nobody's talked about the guy could still shoot pretty well from 3 different levels. Now, he's not the most explosive athlete, obviously, but he kind of uses the fact that you have to guard him at all 3 levels, to his advantage, and he just kind of takes what's given to him. Pretty solid, all-around heady player that you're going to feel really good about going forward.
All right. Let's talk about this guy. And I know we'll probably be quick because he's not a college guy. Sam Vecini thinks Josh Giddey goes 10 to the Memphis Grizzlies. I agree. He seems like the type of guy that you would trade up for. Seems like he will fit in right away on that team and kind of help them make the push to get past the 8 seed. Tyler, I know that you had spent some time watching some international tape over the last couple of days. Did you watch any Giddey, and what did you think of him?
I watched a little bit. I think he's going to be perfect as that extra ball handler for Memphis to take some of the pressure off John Morant.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. The kid's already in the gym working on his jump shot. He's already got his shooting coach working on that, so that's a plus. But again, this is another guy. We're talking about a guy that can't shoot. He's gonna work on it, and it's going to improve. But he could be put in a position where he's on a playoff team, and he's more of just the facilitator and just setting up guys like John Morant, Jaren Jackson, Dylan Brooks. So, I mean, he's getting put in a nice spot here, and I really like the kid, so I think it's a solid pick for him.
Yeah, especially in Memphis where he's not coming in, right? Like Sacramento, like you're going to be looked to turn around the franchise. Memphis, you're going to come in and you're not going to necessarily have as heavy a role. Steve, did you see any Josh Giddey, and do you have any thoughts about him?
I have no thoughts on Josh Giddey,
All right.
Unfortunately.
We got plenty of thoughts, so we'll just move quickly. Gav, did you see Josh Giddey at all, or do you want me to just go on to the next guy?
Nope. I think best served moving on.
All right, and then I'm going to go straight to you with this one because I know this is a guy that you watched a lot this year. So, I've seen a lot of noise that Kai Jones is going to go here, but we'll go off this mock. This mock has Corey Kispert of Gonzaga going there. And, I mean, we just talked about Giddey shooting, right? I mean, Kispert's a sharpshooter, right? He's going to come in and help whatever team right away. Would you agree, Gavin?
Yeah, best shooter in the draft, at least coming out of college, and I don't think it's even really close. A guy that proved it multiple years. Some people might have the Doug McDermott worries, which was kind
I was going to use that little comp. I was going to throw it to Steve.
Yeah, and look, McDermott was ass his first couple years in the league. He looked like he started to figure it out a little bit, but Kispert should be much more plug and play. He's way quicker, way better on his feet. You still worry about him on the defensive end, but a guy that again is going to be really easy to plug in 2 through 4, and is going to be able to shoot from 3 feet beyond. You have to guard him pretty much everywhere.
I mean, what do you think if he ends up going to Charlotte, Steve? I mean, is he going to get about 5 or 6 assists a night from LaMelo Ball? Right, just sitting out there hitting open threes. Seems like a pretty good fit, huh?
Yeah, definitely the best shooter in the draft. Unselfish winner type player. I think he's a winning piece. I think he might get pigeonholed as kind of like a 3-point only spot up shooter. That's not what he was at Gonzaga. I mean, he was an awesome shooter, but people kind of forget that Gonzaga team didn't really take that many threes. You know, they were the most efficient 2-point offense in the league, and a lot of that was because Suggs creating. Kispert can create a little bit. You know, he's not just a stand and shoot guy. So I just wanted to add that. You know, I think that he's going to be more than just a spot up shooter, which is why I don't mind him going in the lottery. You know, and he is 6'7", so lots of size. Like Gavin said, you worry a little bit about the defense, but I don't think he's going to absolutely kill you. And then you had mentioned free throw shooting earlier. I think he's like a career 91% guy.
Yeah,
so
I love that.
Just elite shooter, 44% from 3, 63% from 2.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure he's a 50-40-90 or 40-50-90, whatever that split is.
Yeah,
Just
50-40-90.
Just a clean scoring prospect.
Tyler, it sounds like we all agree. You know, every team could probably use 2 or 3 Corey Kisperts on them. What do you think? He comes in and makes an impact right away?
Yeah, I think so. But honestly, the more I look at this pick, wouldn't you, like, if you're running Charlotte and you're the GM, wouldn't you just want to be getting LaMelo as many toys as possible to throw alley-oops to and to set up on the offensive end?
So I think Kai Jones is legit?
I think Kai Jones is the guy right here. I think this is the pick where they take him. But I can see the Corey Kispert here. You need shooting on that team. I mean, because you probably want to move that Rozier contract, and that's also up after this year, I believe. So, I mean, Kispert could plug right in next to LaMelo or even play some of the 3-ball spots. So, I mean, I understand it, but I think Kai Jones is the pick here.
I agree with you on Kai Jones, and he was another guy that I did not want to go to Sacramento. And so the more I looked at him and I saw the immense potential here, to me, if you're a Charlotte team or a Sacramento, you've been middling around, not really making the playoffs for a while and not being a contender. Although I know Kispert, you're not going to miss. I mean, Kai Jones is got a potential to be, you know, a legitimate all-star or maybe, you know, an all-NBA top 15 guy. Also has the potential to only get like 9 minutes a night and be a Scal Labissiere. But I think that I would go ahead and swing the dice there with Kai Jones, who we'll talk about a little later, but he's mocked a lot lower. So we're going in the order just of the mock draft that we're using. And Tyler, this is the guy that I've been waiting to talk about. Mock to 12. What a beautiful situation. A young man who modeled his postgame after Tim Duncan could be drafted by the Spurs, and I couldn't be happier. I think he'll go in there and just be fantastic. What do you think of my favorite player in this draft, Alperen Sengun?
We talk about it a lot, Spread. When I watch his highlight tape, I told you who I see in him.
Tell the people.
I see Luka Garza. That's what I see. I see a Turkish Luka Garza. I just don't see it with this guy. Like, I get it, his offense is good, but just like you said, he's a post player. Post is dead in the NBA.
Luka Garza can shoot. Can this guy shoot?
Yeah, this guy's a shooter too.
But his defense is just terrible.
Yeah.
Like, he goes to a Spurs team that's fighting for a playoff spot. Guess who's getting hunted on the defensive end to kick them out of the playoffs late in the year? Alperen Sengun. Like,
all right. So Tyler and I are completely opposite on this, and you know, I hope you guys hang out with us because we'll probably bring this up a lot during the year, right? It's easy to either come in and be a fantastic player, or I mean, he could be a complete bust too. Steve, you didn't watch any of the Turkish MVP, did you?
No, but I have a few thoughts here. So,
all right, let's hear it.
So his over/under is at 12.5.
Yeah.
So he's mocked to 12 here. Is that just because he's such a good fit with the Spurs? Because, you know, if we think that he's, you know, an outdated 80s type big, is he really going to go in the top 12? Or is that line there just because he's mocked to the Spurs because that's exactly who they're going to pick? You know,
they seem pretty high on him.
Like that 8 to 12 range. Like, I've even seen the Magic reaching with that second pick and taking him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, you know, the slander of Luka Garza, National Player of the Year, shot 44% from 3 this year on like 3.5 attempts a game.
College player though, Steve.
He's going to be so good over in Europe. Yes.
Like you said it, like
Yep.
Europe.
Yep.
This guy MVP in Europe. plays like Luka Garza, who was our college player of the year, they'll be perfect on the Shanghai Sharks together.
Yeah,
I think he might shoot like a different Luka. Gavin, did you watch this guy at all?
Yeah, I watched a ton of Luca.
How about
no
Sengun?
I got no idea about this Sengun character.
All right, yeah, and this is where I think he gets
like
fun.
Spurs talking about Jalen Johnson. I mean, I don't know where the hell their heads are at.
I can't wait till we get to him. I don't know where he's mocked in this mock.
I think he's down in the 20s.
He's not a guy that I'm high on, but he's a guy that I almost feel like I might end up eating my words. Like I'm not high on him, but I don't want to go on and put a lot of tape on him, talking down on him, because I think he can make me eat my words. The next guy, though, we talked about this guy being a dog earlier. Davion Mitchell out of Butler. Mocked to the Pacers here by Vicini from The Athletic. We'll start with you, Steve. What do you think of Davion Mitchell's chances in the NBA, and how would he fit in? I don't think that this Pacers fit is a great fit, personally.
Yeah, I don't know as much about the fit. Tyler could probably talk about that once I, say who he is. Yeah, so best guard defender in the draft, I think, bar none. He's a little bit undersized, but he makes up with it because he's so quick. I think he's the quickest player in the draft. He's just like a bulldog, crazy, like intensity type guy. His nickname at Baylor was Off Night because everyone that he would match up with would have their off night scoring.
I like that.
He is NBA ready right now. I think he can step in and have an impact right now. I've seen him falling a bit, maybe because of his size, maybe because people aren't buying into the good shooting year that he had. I buy into the development. I think he's going to be really good. Great story with him that someone from CBS Sports, I think it was Matt Norlander, told was for the national championship game, Suggs was talking about how Gonzaga was getting ready, doing their high fives and all this stuff. And he looked over like 3 or 4 times over a 5-minute span. And Davion Mitchell was just standing there, arms crossed, just staring at them for 5 straight minutes before the game. Super intense guy. I just don't see how he lets himself fail in the NBA. Huge fan.
Tyler, what do you think about Steve's breakdown? I thought was fantastic, and you talked to me about the fit a little more. Being a more high-profile guy, I did watch more Mitchell with Baylor being such a high-profile team, and had a lot of fun watching those guys. I think he's going to be great. I just don't know how he fits on Indiana. How do you think he translates, and do you agree with me on the fit?
I think he translates well. I mean, the dude shot 40% from 3. That's what you want in your modern-day NBA players. He's great on defense, just like Steve said. And as for the fit, I think it's actually a pretty good fit. We have Rick Carlisle in Indy now.
Oh, really? Okay.
We all know Rick doesn't like rookie point guards. This isn't your normal rookie point guard. This kid's going to step on the floor. He's going to be able to play from day one. He's got the experience. He could shoot. He could create his own shot. I think he'll be a great second unit point guard for them. And they can even run him. So
you would just run him as a backup? Because I can't see him being on the floor at the same time as Brogdon. You're just too small. As relentless as he is.
Yeah, I mean, you can play, but I think they would have to play him with TJ if they brought him off the bench. But I mean, that backcourt might be small. They're going to be short, but
I don't mind a small backcourt on my reserve minutes.
Yeah, I agree there too. Like that backcourt of those two, I mean, they should get 5 steals a game just combined with those two guys in the second unit.
Gavin, did we leave anything out? Singing the praises of Davion Mitchell, who, if you listen to the way we talked about this guy, it shows you how deep this draft is. This guy's going at 13.
Yeah, this guy's a savage. Intangibles and makeup that you can't even script out, with a pen and paper. Not a ton to add. The only 2 concerns you have is size, and he's still 6'3". He's not a midget. He's probably closer to 6'2", in all honesty. And I'll take a 6'2", willing and able, not only willing and able, but willing, able, and a damn good proven defender over someone like a Book Knight who we're thinking 6'5", can he be a good defender? We know Davion's a good defender. And then the sustainability of the 3-point shooting, because his 3-point percentage really spiked last year. But he also came into a much more ball-dominant role this last year at Baylor than what he was in seasons past. So that might have part to do with it. maybe he's just better, as a ball dominant guy versus off ball. But he's going to be a guy I can imagine that Rick Carlisle is going to love, just from his kind of mindset and way that he kind of approaches the game.
Yeah, I mean, if this was last year's draft, I think this guy would have gone 5 or 6. It just shows you how deep this draft is. And for a team that's going to be knocking on the door of the playoffs, most likely, if he goes in this spot, to get a player like Davion Mitchell, it's going to be fantastic. Next up, they have the Warriors. We talked about plug and play guys. I think that he's right here. I don't really see how they would let this guy get past here. I say Duarte, but I only read it. Am I pronouncing this wrong, Gavin? And give us our breakdown.
That's the way I was pronouncing it the entire college year. Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of, real similar kind of skill set without the twitchiness and explosiveness of Davion Mitchell. He was more of a proven and sustained shooter at Oregon, and not as much of a ball dominant guy. So maybe it's not even quite the comparison, but another really high floor guy, old elder statesman of the draft that you have a problem seeing how this goes wrong. Just the way that he approaches the game. Dana Altman disciple is hard to argue against. A lot to like about him. Don't know that, maybe he becomes an elite outside shooter. He's already a pretty damn good one. But other than that, not really anything elite in one category, but, pretty good size, 6'6", a little more of a combo guard, the way that I would look at it.
I mean, if he ends up going to Golden State, he will have nice numbers right off the bat because he's going to be the fourth option for the defense. So I think he's going to get a lot of wide open looks. Steve, do you think that he fits in well at the NBA right off the bat? I mean, the guy's 24 years old. It's not like you're drafting a 19-year-old project. Maybe not too much improvement, but he probably helps the team right away, especially a team like the Warriors that's going to be looking for significant playoff minutes from these guys and not just some development.
Yeah, so outside, those top 4 guys, I think it's Duarte, I think it's Davion, and I think it's Corey Kispert as the 3 guys who can step in right away and be, a top 5 option on team. People are going to point to his age. Yeah, he's 24, went the JUCO route, but he's perfectly molded for the NBA. Shot 42% from 3 this past year. Scores really well at the rim. He's bigger than he seems. He's like 6'6", like Gavin said. Active hands on defense. He's not an elite defender, but he's not going to kill you. I'd say he's average. Just an overall solid piece. Is going to step right in and be, a contributor from day one.
Yeah, and Tyler, I don't know why there's so much an aversion to drafting these guys that are 24. You're going to get 5 prime years of cheap rookie contract ball on a guy in his prime. Unlike a guy like Kuminga, where you're going to pay for 3 years of development, you're going to get a year or 2 that are good, and then you're going to have to give him the max deal. How do you think Duarte would fit on the Warriors? Because to me, it would be really shocking to me if he makes it past 14.
I think he definitely ends up on like a win now team, even if say we've heard that the Lakers want to trade up into the early teens. I think this is the guy they're targeting. Same thing with the Knicks. They want to package 19 and 21. This is their guy. Everyone wants to come up and get this guy because they know, just like you said, you're getting him right into his prime. He can shoot from 3. He's maybe a little older, but he is a bigger guard that can play right now and defend. I mean, I think the kid's going to be great, but I can't see him getting past Golden State unless there's a trade here and somebody else comes up before him.
You're getting 4 to 5 years of starter quality minutes off a rookie contract. I think it's going to be a great deal.
Him and Jordan Poole would be a nice backcourt unit to bring off the bench too.
Yeah. Now I'm going to really need you guys to start helping me and carrying the heavy loads here. I'll have to admit, I don't think I watched this guy at all. Steve, I'll start with you. I don't think you're going to be a fan of him. Trey Murphy out of Virginia. What did you think of his game? And try not to be too biased as a VTech guy.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of exploded off the scene. So he transferred in from, I think it was Rice. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about how guys like Kispert and Moody are being billed as 3-and-D guys, but we think that they're more than that. I think Murphy is just a 3-and-D guy. He was kind of stand around and wait for a pass and then can the shot. Really long. He's like 6'8", 6'9". I don't think that he's going to be able to create much, which is why I really like those 2 guys more than Murphy. You know, I've seen some mocks where they have Murphy going before those two. I think that would be a huge mistake. The concern for me is, you know, he was pretty good, but he was the third best player on Virginia. You know, are you going to take him in the lottery? I don't know.
Gavin, I think the reason that he's so high in these things, 95% from the free throw line. You know, as the little amateur draft hacks like me, that's our number one metric we like using. How do you think Trey Murphy translates to the NBA?
Yeah, the thing is, you know, they tend to guard you when you're not shooting from the free throw line. So it's now I don't know much about basketball, but I do know that. No, Murphy, I think he's one of the more underrated shooters in the draft, frankly. Nobody really talked about him. I think he's frankly gained a little bit too much steam. You know, I think Steve encompassed it perfectly by saying he was the third option, and that might even been generous at times for Virginia, which was a, you know, already stale offense that played really slow, kind of half-court ball. I mean, he is a longer 3-and-D, so maybe you favor that, but yeah, I don't know what kind of ceiling he has, you know, if you take him inside the top 20 for that type of pick.
Tyler, what did you think of Trey Murphy?
Yeah, I agree with what Steve said. He just seems like a strictly 3-and-D guy. I mean, 43% from 3 and 95% from the free throw line. Those are great numbers. But I mean, the team that's going to draft this guy is a team that is desperately in need of shooting. Is Washington really that team right here, Spread, do you think, at 15?
They are desperate for shooting, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they're almost desperate for everything. I could see them trying to put it in. They obviously need some space if they're going to run it back with Russ. But, okay, cool. Well, thank you guys for catching me up on Trey Murphy, a player that I did not see a lot of, a player that I ended up watching because he was mocked to the Kings. And in Sam Vecini's mock, he threw him at 16. And this is Kai Jones. I think if you are here, you know, and you're the Thunder, this is the type of pick I make. I think that, you know, it could completely flame out, though. Gavin, we'll start with you. What do you think of Kai Jones? And I mean, is this guy going to be a star?
I thought that I was going to be on an island in terms of being a Kai Jones guy. I didn't realize you guys were so high on him, because I was going to say, you know, I have a list of guys in this draft that are centers with 3-level scoring, rim protecting capabilities, and foot speed. It's Evan Mobley and it's Kai Jones. That's it. Now, Kai Jones has a lot more ability to make you, you know, end up having egg on your face. There's a lot more variance baked into it, but you see, you know, the potential there. When he had, I think he had 1 or 2 starts specifically in Texas when like half the team was injured. I think he had like 40 points. He went nuts. Yeah. And so you've kind of seen it in spurts. And I tend to believe that Shaka Smart was kind of a dumb shit at Texas and probably didn't utilize him to the extent or the way that he should have. So I'm big on Kai Jones. This was going to be one of my guys. I think he'd be a great pick at 16.
Yeah, what do you think, Steve? Is this going to be like a Kevin Durant situation here? We got a 7-footer that can move on the perimeter.
Whoa.
What do you think?
I don't like him that much.
Yeah.
We got to spice things up.
Yeah, no. So I think part of the reason why he didn't play that much is because Shaka promised Greg Brown all these minutes. Excuse me, who was terrible. Yeah, I mean, he's just a complete wild card, I think I would say. He's a mega athlete, you know. He's got good shooting touch. I don't think that he's like has much basketball IQ yet. You know, he's very raw. Took a bunch of like mid-range shots for no reason. But I think, you know, part of that might have been, you know, they weren't using him that much. Was just trying to get his shots up. You know, he knew that he was coming out. You know, he's really good at the rim. This is one of those huge upside, huge downside picks, like you said, which, you know, when you're picking 15 to 20, you should have no issues pulling the trigger on a guy like that.
And Tyler, I'm going to go to you, but I got one question for Gav real quick. When it comes to the athleticism, how does he compare it to another big, quick 7-footer in this draft, Evan Mobley, as a guy who watched a lot of both players?
Well, I think Kai Jones only started playing basketball like in his mid-teens. I think like he's pretty new to this game, and so the the footwork and the coordination is not even in the same area code. Now, when you talk about foot speed and just overall mobility / ability to move around the floor and be a problem for another 5 to guard him, I think he's relatively equal in terms of, that type of athleticism and capability as Mobley. Now, that being said, this is not a track meet nor a tag contest. And so, you still have to score the ball. You have to defend. I think part of the thing, too, is that Shaka Smart was playing a lot of the veteran guys like Jace Fabrice, who sucked at Texas, partly because he was trying to coach for his job. And I think he just trusted some of the older guys at the program that had been with him longer. So I think Jones got jobbed by that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, he has maybe the highest ceiling. I'm trying to think, like, if you told me that he has the highest ceiling of any guy out of the top 4, I wouldn't be completely like, you're out of your mind. I'd be fine with that kind of statement.
I would feel real safe to say, off the mock that we did today, he has the highest ceiling of anyone out of the top 10.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. So I think that's why it's worth it. So Tyler, you and I have been DMing. You saw the little journey I made, right? I was down on Kai Jones when we first started. The more I watched, the more I read, the more I kind of imagined him translating. I went from, I don't think this guy's going to be very good, to this guy's got a lot of potential and could be really intriguing to whatever team gets him. Almost like a fit thing. What do you think of Kai Jones here?
I think just those last couple words out of your mouth fit it perfectly. This kid is a fit. He has to be in the right spot to work. Mm-hmm. I think the Hornets are the dream spot for him, getting set up by LaMelo and just being able to rim run, worrying about guarding the rim. I also don't mind him going a little higher and dropping to your Kings at 9. Running up and down the floor with the Aaron Fox. I mean, he'd fit perfect right there, the athleticism. I mean, the kid could jump out of the gym. I know a lot of teams have worries because they're not sure he's going to play like a true big with how new he is to basketball. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, I think the feel will come around for the most part. And, I mean, we've seen athleticism just take over when it comes to defense and catching alley-oops. We don't need the guy out there dribbling and setting up his own three-point shots.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. As Giannis showed during the NBA Finals, right? Being bigger and faster than everybody is quite the skill, right? Much to James Harden's chagrin. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on the guy that they have going at 17, and that's Jared Butler, a guy that I'm really high on and moved up in draft positioning now that he's been cleared. Start with you, Steve. Jared Butler, another player at Baylor. I've seen guys say that he might end up being better than Davion Mitchell. What do you think of Jared Butler, and is that a wild claim to see he's going to be the best player out of this Baylor class this year?
I don't think it's a wild claim. This was the first guy that I had highlighted. Like Gavin said with Kai Jones, we were trying to point out a couple of guys that we were higher on than consensus. I think 17 is about as high as I've seen him mocked. Super awesome that he was finally cleared from this condition that didn't hamper him for 3 years in college. Smart player, elite level shooter. Can create and can catch and shoot, versatile scorer, really tenacious defender. Not as talented a defender as Mitchell, but still a good defender. I think that he's going to be a really good pro. Glad to see, like I said, that he was cleared. I think if he had been cleared this whole time, he would be mocked even higher than this. I think he's going to be really good in the NBA, and I hope that he goes in the in the lottery. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'd say that the only argument for him to fall and end up here is he'll end up on a good team where he's just going to be asked to do what he does well and not asked to save a franchise. Gavin, what do you think of Jared Butler coming in out of Baylor? I think he's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, he's solid. The thing was playing off ball his entire career. He's a much more natural fit on a lot of these teams than Davion is going to be. But I don't think he has the ceiling that Davion has, especially when you factor in kind of just intangibles, drive, intensity. I think that kind of really carries Davion further than what a lot of people believe. But Butler is nails, man. I mean, he was much more proven. He came into the year, much more highly touted than Davion. Like preseason, All-American watch list, preseason, I think first team All-American. legit guy. And yeah, now this heart thing is in the rearview mirror. Boy, I'm trying to find some Jared Butler bets, but yeah, this guy is solid. The thing is, I don't really know where you poke at any one area where you say this is really an issue. Other than maybe size and the fact that he's not going to be a ball dominant guy, he's going to be really having to guard more twos as kind of a 6'3" guy. Maybe that causes issues, but other than that, I mean, he's solid everywhere and willing and able as a teammate and kind of leader if it comes to that point in the future for him.
Tyler, what do you think of Jared Butler? And if he does go to New Orleans, like Mock, does he give Zion some of that space that he's been looking for?
I don't think New Orleans makes this pick. I think they trade out of it.
Okay.
But I mean, Butler just seems like a very good player. He's only 20 years old to where Mitchell's 22 coming out of Butler. So you're getting the 2 extra years there. I get it. The heart condition's a thing with him, but if he's cleared, the kid's going to play.
Yeah.
The kid could shoot. He could be your second unit offense guy. Like you could run the offense through him with your second unit. I see a lot of these deeper playoff teams like the Lakers, the Clippers and teams eyeing up a guy like him and trying to get him in the 20s. But I mean, if a team's going to take Trey Murphy, Kispert, and Duarte all off the board, you're going to have a couple of these teams that had those 3 guys at the top of their board all crossed off. And guess who's going to be 4th? Jared Butler.
All right.
That's where I think he gets his name called a little earlier. And Gavin was talking about getting some Jared Butler bets in. I looked at 10 different books on his draft position prop. I think Bovada and I believe it was Bet Online made a mistake putting him at 26.5 and 27. FanDuel's hanging a 21.5 for him. So it's either they believe he's going to get picked a lot earlier or Bovada and other companies believe he's going to last a lot later. I think he's going in the early 20s. I think that's a bet on the under.
Yeah, I like that bet a lot. Gavin, let's go back to you with your Pac-10 knowledge. Let's go with probably one of the most controversial guys in the draft as far as just basically where we're ranking him and what we project from him. Zaire Williams only played, 13 games or something for Stanford, and he left in the middle of the season. I know that they knocked him down a bit. I didn't watch this guy as much. I didn't watch as much Pac-10 as I usually watch this year. What do you think of him? And is he going to be pretty good? I mean, I see him as mocked as high as 8 sometimes.
Well, on one hand, you have the only other guy that has his kind of natural talent for shot creating and shot making at his size is going number 1 overall in the draft. He has that kind of skill set that is hard to find. It doesn't just grow on trees. Stanford had the Pac-10 had just a shit sandwich of a situation coming into the year. I mean, Stanford was practicing like out of the county busing. He had a death in the middle in his family in the middle of the year that people were speculating early on that he might not even come back even before like Christmas. And so the thing to me is like, if you're a mental basket case, you don't typically end up going to Stanford.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I can't remember the last head case that we've seen come out of Stanford in any sport, And so part of me thinks that this kid, someone is going to take a stab on this kid early, because you just can't find the skill set that he does possess. And if he continues on the trajectory, that he was at coming into college, and then, from what people have seen through the combine stuff, I mean, he could be one of the most unique players coming out of this draft. And I think a team ends up swinging the bat on him earlier than this.
All right, so you think it's an under, and he's mismocked. Steve, I know you're not out here on the West Coast with Gav and I, but did you see any of Williams, and how do you think he projects?
Yeah, I mean, not as much as we wanted to because of what Gavin said. They had the interesting start, and then he missed a couple weeks with the death in the family. He just had like a weird college year. When he came back, he didn't ever seem to get in the groove. Almost fell out of the rotation there, which is really weird. Especially because, Stanford had some talent, but it's not like he was competing with elite guys to get minutes. So I have no idea where he's at right now. He is so skinny. I'm not sure what he's listed at, but he's got to be 165, 170 pounds. He is a rail. So I mean, that's going to be the number one thing is he's going to have to put weight on. He's 6'9", 6'10", 170 pounds. That's just not going to fly. He didn't shoot worth a lick in college. I have no idea if that's going to improve. I think this is one of those theoretical upside picks that you can take in the back half of the first round. But it is just a complete lottery ticket. I think he's one of the guys that I had highlighted in red as probably not a guy that I would take, just because I think that there are other guys in this range like Jared Butler, like a Kai Jones that we just talked about that I would rather use my draft capital on.
Tyler, did you watch any Zaire Williams, and what did you think of him?
I didn't get to catch much of him, but after hearing Steve's breakdown and hearing that he's only 165 to 175 pounds and he can't shoot, I want nothing to do with this kid.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds terrible.
Like, you're telling me
he can shoot. He can shoot a little bit. Take it easy over there. He can shoot a little bit.
He didn't shoot at all in college. I'm going to pull up his stats right now.
Yeah, if my guy's skinny and he can't shoot, I want nothing to do with that. Like, because if you're going to give me like a Brandon Ingram build and take his jump shot away, I mean, the guy's not going to be able to do much of anything. So,
all right, well, Steve's looking that up. Let's go down. I know that the you two didn't watch it, but Tyler, did you watch any of this Usman Garuba? The only thing I saw of him, I think, was he's on the Nigerian team, right? And he was part of the upset, and he was playing some good defense there. Did I get this right?
No, he's on the Spain team. He plays for Real Madrid.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that a soccer team?
They have a basketball team too.
Oh, okay.
Ain't that some shit?
I'm talking about for the international, though.
International, I believe he's on Spain.
Oh, okay. My bad. All right. Well, I haven't watched him then. I must be mixing him up with someone else. Have you seen him at all? And if not, we'll just go on to the next guy.
I caught a little bit of him.
Uh-huh.
This is such a Tom Thibodeau player. I mean, the dude is defensive lockdown. He's 6'8".
Yeah.
He can play in the front court too. If he slides past both the Knicks picks at 19 and 21, I'd be surprised.
He won't. He won't. There's no way. He's not getting past 21. I don't think he gets past 19.
All right.
Let's.
So I pulled up Zaire Williams stats. So overall field goal percentage, 37.4, shot 29.1 from three.
Free throw percentage. You got it for me? You know, that's what I care about.
I don't have the free throw percentage. You got to be kidding me.
I know, it's all good.
37% from the floor that's just not going to do it.
All right. Let's go to another defensive stopper here. Keon Johnson out of Tennessee. Gab, seems like he's going to find a place in the league. It's just, is he going to be a starter or just a defensive guy off the bench? What do you think of Keon Johnson out of Tennessee, Gavin?
I don't know. I hate this guy. His offensive game sucks. He jumps really high. And I don't think he's as great of a defender as a lot of people are giving him credit for. He played on a team that 1 through 5 played some of the toughest and best defense in college basketball. And so it was a hell of a lot easier to not be exposed on the defensive end and being that athletic against other kids. And he was just a greater athlete than just about anybody he was guarding in the SEC. So, yeah, naturally he's going to look good on defense. I don't know what this kid brings other than being a dunk contest winner as many years as he wants to participate.
Oh, that was I like that. He's coming with some fire. Steve, you want to jump in on that, or did he pretty much just sum it up?
Gavin and I are on the same page with Keon. We have been all year. He was my number one fade for our little lists. He's a physical freak, but he's not a basketball player. I don't think. We've talked about a lot of guys that can't shoot. I think Keon is the worst shooter that we've talked about, but he thinks he can. His defense, like Gavin said, it's good, but it's tough to tell how good it was. He was by two guys who were just elite defenders as well. So I would not want my team to take Keon Johnson in the first round.
Tyler, anything you want to add on Keon Johnson?
I mean, me and Steve were talking about some of the draft picks we liked earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
My quote was, I hate all of these Tennessee guys this year. All right.
Well, then, because we're
my man.
We hated them too all year.
Go straight into Jaden Springer then, the other Tennessee guy you hate. Jaden Springer mocked to the Knicks. Tell me how upset you'd be if he went to the Knicks, and why don't you like Jaden Springer as a prospect?
I mean, I just don't like, because none of them could really shoot. They were just like a defensive team that was just locking down teams, and they beat a team like 55-48. It's like, I really don't want my guy translating to the NBA when the team couldn't score in college, and it should be a little easier to score then. And now you're going to come up to the league where like guys are going to be a lot faster. It's going to be a lot harder to play that defense because we know how they call fouls. So I want nothing to do with any of these guys coming at it.
Steve, any Jaden Springer love from you, or did Tyler nail it?
Yeah, I actually like Springer a little more than Keon just because I think that he's a little bit better of a shooter/scorer. I really think that people are liking Keon because he jumped high at the combine. If he doesn't do that, I don't see how you could possibly take him in the top 20, 25 picks. But I do like Springer more.
Gavin, Jaden Springer, is there anything that we're missing, and maybe a reason, or should we just send this guy to the G League right now?
Nah. I think no, I don't think. I know more offensive polish than Keon, especially right now as it stands. I think it's easier to project him on the offensive end. I think he has the upside to be every bit of the defender as Keon wants to be. I think it's just who wants to be a defender more than them. When they're not being told by Rick Barnes, you're going to go sit on the bench if you don't play defense. That's not going to be the case in the NBA all the time. So I don't know. Yeah, he's I think a little bit better than Keon, a little less the athlete, a little better offensive polish. I'd probably take him over him, gun to my head, if I was a GM in that spot.
Sounds good. Let's go straight to a guy. And hey, I'll tell you what, Steve, I saw this guy 5 on Hollinger's big board. Trey Mann out of Florida, mocked to 22, and the Los Angeles Lakers here by The Athletic. What do you think of Trey Mann? And I mean, I was surprised to see him mocked that high because I had barely even read about him or watched him. What do I need to learn about this kid?
He's a street ball player. He's not really like a basketball player. He takes like wild step back, horrible shot selection. He's a decent shooter and he's got talent. I think they're going to have to fix that if he's going to have any impact in the NBA. He's super skinny. He has no interest in playing any defense. He doesn't pass the ball. He's not a good passer. My note here is would not ever draft Trey Mann.
What do you think, Tyler? Would you want him on the Knicks?
On the Knicks, not so much. Where they have him mocked right here, I think it's a perfect fit. Because you want to know what Steve just described to me? J.R. Smith.
Oh, okay.
He is J.R. Smith.
He just described to me J.R. Smith. So there's LeBron's second unit runner right there, Trey Mann. Pick 22. Run the second unit for me, kid.
All right, we're having some fun with this breakdown. Gavin, anything to add?
Yeah, I almost passed a kidney stone when I saw Trey Mann mocked to the Lakers. I might riot if that's the case. There's so many better guard options at this point, but that is what he is. He's a guard with some size and spark plug offense. If you can rein in the what am I trying to think of? The shot selection.
Shot selection. Yeah.
But good in transition, pretty physical. Doesn't play a freaking lick of defense. So if that's perfect for the Lakers, so be it. But I just hope that this isn't the spot for Trey Mann, for the love of God.
Well, I appreciate it because when you guys said J.R. Smith, I feel like I have a much better handle.
Oh, my God. I just got sick to my stomach when you said J.R. Smith was coming to the Lakers.
Let's go ahead and talk about your favorite college team, Tyler. And we had mentioned him a bit, Isaiah Jackson here, mocked to 23 at the Rockets by The Athletic. What do you think of Isaiah Jackson?
I see this guy all over draft boards, anywhere from the 20s all the way up to even that Spurs pick at 12. I mean, you know who this guy reminds me of the most is like a Montrezl Harrell, just like a very high energy player, but he's a little taller and can play a little better defense. And he's just going to go out there. He's going to work hard for you. He's going to grab rebounds, catch him under the hoop in that dunker spot, maybe catch him for a couple of oops. But outside of that, I mean, that's all he is for you, in my opinion.
All right. What do you think of Isaiah Jackson, Steve?
Yeah, rim running guy, super athletic big. He's going to have a lot of blocks, a lot of stupid fouls. That was the thing that hurt him in college, is that he just couldn't stay in the game. Lots of early fouls. I'm not sure if he has much basketball IQ. Doesn't really have an offensive game. Do you remember when, and I'm not sure what he's developed into, but you remember when Bismack Biyombo came out and they basically said that, he couldn't score 1-on-0. Jackson doesn't really have an offensive game. He's a lob dunk guy. It would be cool if he developed some. I know that he's raw, and from what I've heard, he's a hard worker. But yeah, good defender, just not the smartest player, and I question his upside just because of his scoring ability.
All right, Gav, we've heard some concerns here. What is your feeling on Isaiah Jackson?
Yeah, the Montrezl Harrell was a little tough, man. I mean, shoot, that's an undersized big. I mean, Jackson is super long, super springy, really twitchy and athletic. I mean, it's probably the most so if you're talking about just fast twitch athleticism, he's more athletic than Mobley. He's more athletic than Kai Jones. This dude is a freak of nature athlete who can't score beyond placing the ball above the rim and dropping it into the hoop or dunking it. So he's going to be a project on the offensive end. And you said, you saw him mocked at 28, 20, 12. That sounds like his minute distribution on a night-to-night basis, because he would either foul 4 times in the first half and then pick up his 5th one 3 minutes into the second half and be out of the game. Or for some reason, he would get 12 boards, 10 points, and 6 blocks in 14 minutes. He's just a freak of nature. And if it pans out, could be something really special on the defensive end.
All right. Well, that's fantastic. I can't wait to see how this guy turns out. Is he going to be a stud or another Willie Cauley?
He's a lot closer to Dwight Howard coming out of college than he was to Montrezl Harrell. I'll tell you that.
Oh, all right. Well, I can't wait to hear what you guys think, because he's a power forward from Duke. So as a Kings fan, I'm already tucking my tail and running in fear. But Jalen Johnson has to be one of the most controversial players in this draft. There's some draft experts that love him and think he's up there with Kai Jones, where you can get a really high upside guy later in the draft. Other guys just think that he doesn't have the mental capability and he's going to bust out like pretty much every other power forward out of Duke. What do you think, Gavin?
He's as high variance as any prospect, obviously, in the draft, but has probably equal to high a ceiling as pretty much anybody outside the top 4. Kind of similar to what I said about Zaire Williams. It's the skill sets for a guy that's 6'9" and can do what Jalen Johnson does on a court is not really easy to find. And so, you might even be holding over props for Jalen Johnson. I would be. Your asshole is going to be puckered same way that I think some team is going to take a chance on this dude, just because of the ceiling. I think that he just has a different level ceiling than all the other guys. And it's a floor of the basement level, given the mental basket case that he is. But look, he's a solid player. And the whole thing with Duke was kind of crappy. And teams are going to have to do their due diligence on the background and personality side. But if they feel good about that, they're getting a hell of a player that has plenty of upside.
Yeah, and Steve, so as a Kings fan, I'm checking mock drafts like the second the last draft is finished. At the beginning of the year, Jalen Johnson was like a top 5, top 6 guy. What do you make of him, and why the fall? Just because he quit Duke? Other players stopped playing, and I don't see him dropping so far.
Yeah, it's probably just because of the way it happened. He quit because he was playing like shit, and they were taking his minutes away. And then he just left the team. Really weird year for him because he didn't play to start the season and then kind of came on strong. And then, he just super inconsistent. The talent's definitely there. You can see it when he plays. I think he just might be just like a complete moron. I have him on my would never draft list. Mm-hmm. There's just too many guys in this area that I really like. Why are you going to... I get the upside, but I don't know. I just don't like guys like this. Like how many guys get drafted, after 15 that have no work ethic, that have no basketball IQ and develop into stars? He didn't quit because of some technicality like what happened at Memphis. He quit because he wasn't getting enough playing time and he was pissed off about it. I think So right when the props came out, I took him over 10.5 at even money. It's like 13 or 14 now. FanDuel's got like the who will be drafted first props. Mm-hmm. They've got Kispert minus 110 against him. I bet that. I think that's a really good bet. I think that this is the type of guy that a lot of teams will just have him completely off of their board. You see that a lot in the NFL, I guess not as much in the NBA. I think that some teams will just completely write him off. This is a guy who could be bagging groceries in 2 years.
Yeah, Tyler, I think if the Spurs don't take him, he drops pretty far. What do you think of Jalen Johnson and his NBA prospects?
I don't think there's a chance the Spurs touch him with the way his attitude is.
Okay.
I don't think they want that anywhere near that team. I mean, not only did he quit Duke, but he did the same thing at IMG High School. Played like shit. He departed.
Yep.
I smell confidence problems. The dude gets into the NBA, has a couple bad games. Well, guess what? Now you got a cancer in the locker room. I wouldn't want this guy anywhere near my team. Just like Steve said, mark him down on the do not draft list. I wouldn't be surprised to see him out of the league in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, we'll have to check those confidence. We'll do some money ball here and Google how hot his girlfriend is, and then we'll get back to you guys on that one. But it doesn't seem like anyone on the panel is very high on Jalen Johnson, and I'm actually glad to hear it. Power forwards at Duke really have ruined my last three or 4 years as a basketball fan. This next guy they got on the mock draft, I've never even heard of him. We will just go ahead and skip him. He's out of Zalgiris. I don't even know.
You can't pronounce his last name. That's why you're skipping him. That's why. Don't lie.
Gavin's a big
I'll
fan.
I'll try it.
Let him talk about him.
Rokas Jukabaitis.
That's how I would have done it. Hell. Effort.
Do you know him?
Hell no.
Okay, we're going to move on. We got plenty of college guys to break down. Joshua Primo out of Alabama is mocked at 26 to the Nuggets. And at this point, guys, you guys are carrying everything. I didn't see any of this guy play at all. We'll start with you, Steve. What do you think of Joshua Primo?
Yeah, so he was on a really good Alabama team, so kind of struggled for minutes, but did continue to start the whole season. So I'm not sure if that was like a recruiting promise or something. Mm-hmm. He's pretty long for a guard, really good shooter. Definitely a development piece. This is a different tier of player than some of the other guards that we've liked. I do like him. I think he's got real good upside. He's just not ready yet outside of like a spot up shooter, I don't think. But I think that he definitely has the talent to develop into more than that.
All right. What do you think, Gavin?
I think that he started at Alabama because it was a rotational thing where Javon Quinterly coming off the bench was a great spark plug point guard, and Primo was a lot of times the first one off when Herb Jones would get in foul trouble, and then Quinterly would come in and handle the ball. But no, I like Primo. I'm a big Primo guy. He's just a baby. Just like physically, when you look at the kid, he just looks like a child on the floor, from his facial features to his frame. And so he's a project from that standpoint as much as he is from a skill set standpoint. But he showed some good spurts at Alabama where, some of the more veteran guys on that team would just go cold, and John Petty and Herb Jones. And sometimes it was Primo carrying the load from the 3-point line. So he's definitely shown a capability to at least do that at this point. But definitely has upside for, dribbling and shot creating. As well as being a pretty solid defender for a pretty long, rangy guard. But definitely more of a two. He's probably more of a swingman and being a 2-3 than I don't think he really has any upside to be a point guard.
So Gav says he's a baby face that can shoot threes. Tyler, do you agree that he's the next Steph Curry?
I wouldn't go that far, but I mean, the team they have him mocked to, I think would be a perfect place for him to fall into that Nuggets guard rotation. I mean, they're going to start the year off without Murray. You'll get to see how good this kid actually is. And you almost get to mold him into the player you want with him being so young. You'll have him for 5 years. You can showcase him to the league and kind of even do what they did with RJ Hampton. They really didn't want to keep him in the long run. They let him play for a little bit. They showed teams what they had, and then they traded him. So maybe that happens with a guy like Primo. But I think, just like Gavin said, you could plug this guy in at the 2 or the 3. I think that's perfect for Denver off the bench. They need some help off that bench. We've seen that in the playoffs. I think this guy's perfect for him, and they'll have him for the next 10 years if they get him. because he's only 18.
All right, so guys, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab you 2 more names that are kind of high in the mock drafts, and then I'm just going to let you go ahead and pick out maybe second-round players we should watch. So the first one I want to talk about is Sharif Cooper. Vicini's got him going 29 to the Suns, 6'1" guard out of Auburn. Gavin, we'll start with you. Cooper, I've seen him mocked as high as 20. Maybe some upside here. What do you think of Sharif Cooper?
Well, since Steve gave out one of his bets, I'm going to steal his thunder and saying that my big bet for this one is Sharif Cooper over 21 at minus 115.
Okay.
The thing was, there was questions about his eligibility early on in the year, and so he didn't play like the first 8 to 10 games. I think it was exactly 10 games of the season, and then came on and just took the freaking country by storm. 6'1", lightning quick with the ball in his hands, an elite pick and roll ball handler. The problem is he's a midget who plays no defense and can't shoot. I tend to have issues with that in the NBA.
You have great breakdowns, Gavin. I mean,
dude, I'm not one for sugarcoating.
Yeah,
and Keg loves me because I take my stands, man. I don't try to hedge anything, but no, Cooper is. I think for a very particular offense could be interesting if it's very pick and roll centric. He's solid in transition. He's your favorite stat. He had to have been mid to high 80s, if not into the 90s from the free throw line. And he went there a lot, drew a lot of fouls for a little guy. Does that hold up long-term in the NBA? At his size and frame, I don't know. I certainly have questions about that, but part of the reason there are so many good guards in this draft that I think the angle, generally speaking, when you're looking at this draft is you have to pick out who are the guys that are going to get squeezed out in this big bundle of guards. I mean, we've talked about 10 to 12 to 15 solid guards, and I think Sharif Cooper ends up being one of them because of the lack of shooting, the lack of defense, and the lack of size.
Tyler, what do you think of Sharif Cooper?
I agree with everything Gavin said. And one thing he said that stuck out to me was if this kid gets to play in the pick and roll, it would be great for him. Mm-hmm. They have him mocked to Phoenix. That would be the ultimate fit for him to play in that pick and roll system and take over them campaign minutes, because we all know campaign made himself some money this offseason.
It reminds me of like Ty Lawson a little bit. He needs to be playing downhill, and he doesn't really have the frame and the durability to do that long term.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's super small. I'm not sure he's 6 feet tall, Gavin.
They have him at 6'1"? Yeah, no chance.
Yeah. He's just so small. He is an incredible passer, like ball in the string type passing. Probably one of the best passers in the draft. He just can't shoot and definitely can't guard anyone. So at best, a bench guard, fun player to watch in college. I was hoping that he would come back. But yeah, he was the fourth guy I'm lowered in the field with, and I like Gavin's bet over 21 for Cooper for sure. There are just a ton of guards in this range that I like way, way more than him that we can talk about afterwards.
All right, so let's go to the last person mocked in the first round. That was a name that I knew that I definitely want to talk about. Ayu Dosunmu. Don't know if I can pronounce the name, but I've been reading a lot about this kid. Gav, start with you. Junior out of Illinois. How does Dosunmu translate? And maybe tell me how to pronounce his name correctly.
Yeah, I think it's Ayo Dosunmu. I think I'm 99.9% sure the first name is Ayo, but
okay.
A guy who came back, who could have came out into the draft a year before. He came back. He wanted to get Illinois there. He didn't. They had the early exit versus the Loyola. The thing was, the undoubted mark on Ayo was that he was the best closer in college basketball. But one last possession, one shot to win it. There was nobody else you wanted other than Ayo. He does everything extremely well. He doesn't really do anything elite. And he had a tendency to be susceptible when going to his left hand, which teams, eventually started to scout. But that being said, he's still so unstoppable to his right that, he ended up scoring as much as he wanted. And Illinois had another guy that was a really creative playmaker at the point. And so he got some experience playing off ball, which I think is going to be important going into the draft, which I think it makes him a little bit more flexible than if he was going to be a ball-centric, draft piece. So I really like Ayo. It's an A++ intangible makeup guy, leader of the locker room, somebody who hard to see he comes in and makes your team worse in any sense whatsoever.
All right, Steve, quick, give me a breakdown of Ayo.
Yeah, echo a lot of that. Just, leader, elite star college player, late game assassin. One of the things that he really improved when he came back was his 3-point shot, which I think is huge. He turns the ball over a little, but I just think he's being drastically undervalued in this draft. I can't imagine taking guys like Keon Johnson, Jaden Springer over Ayo Dosunmu. I think he should go in the top 25. I'm not sure that he will, just because I guess he's a junior, and sometimes those guys get docked, and he's not he's not the athlete that Keon Johnson is. But if you watch him, he has springs. I just love him. He was on my list of 4 of guys that I'm probably way over the field on. Huge fan. I hope that he falls into a spot where he can play some.
Tyler, what do you think?
If I told you there was a college guard spread that was 6'5", 21 years old, averaged 20 points, a steal, 5 assists, and 6 rebounds, shot 50% from the field and 40% from 3, you'd want to draft that guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like
normal.
Sounds like a lottery pick. This year, top 20. Yeah.
I see this guy. I mean, I think it's anywhere from 20 to maybe like 26. I don't think the Clippers let this guy sneak past them at 26.
And that's why this draft is so crazy. Usually when these championship contenders trade away these first-round picks, you go, oh, who are you going to get at 26 or 27?
Yeah.
This year, I think you're going to end up regretting it. A lot of great players. So, guys, that was pretty much the Athletics first-round mock. Why don't I go through now? Because I know there's players that you guys are high on, but rather than me going through the whole list, we'll just go back and forth. We'll start with you, Gav. Who's the player that you have going in the second round that you want to talk about tonight that you think will be better than people are projecting?
Well, I guess he's mocked at the very end of the first, and he's a guy that I hope goes to the Lakers. And I think we'd be remiss not to at least discuss as a guard is Miles McBride out of West Virginia.
You just took my guy with the first one. Damn it.
Well, yeah. This is the guy I am on my knees saying my first prayer since Catholic high school that the Lakers draft this kid. Because this is, real similar in terms of the type of intangibles and makeup to Ayo in terms of being a leader, a ball dominant point guard with shooting, transition, hard-nosed defender, who's just going to make your team flat out better in one regard or another. Now, maybe you have a little bit more worries of him playing off guard in the NBA, but I think he's a much better defender than a lot of the guys in this range, and probably becomes much safer if you're picking towards the back end of the first round or early in the second.
All right. Well, as a Kings fan, I hope you guys draft Trey Mann, but Miles McBride sounds pretty good. Steve, did you want to jump in and add any on him?
No, I mean, he's can you imagine drafting Trey Mann over Deuce McBride? Yeah, I mean, he's also 42% 3-point shooter, tenacious defender. He's not that tall, which is probably why he gets dinged a bit, but he's really long. He's got like long arms, hard worker, leader, winner. Checks all those boxes. So
all right, Deuce. Steal a guy off Gavin's list and give us a great second round prospect that's going to come in and do well in the league.
So Gavin's going to laugh. My guy's Herb Jones, of course.
Oh, wow.
Another Bama guy. This is a Swiss Army knife type player. Shut down wing defender. Talented enough, athletic enough to guard 1 through 4. Really, really improved his shooting this past year. This is one of those guys, when players return and they say that you have to improve their shooting, and they actually do. He shot 35% for a guy with his size, good enough. Just one of the most high energy players you've ever seen. Needs to avoid offensive fouls, which is more of a college thing anyways. But man, he is a guy that I would want on my team. drafting, between 30 and 40.
Tyler, give us a second round gem that you think that is overlooked here in these first round mocks.
Now we know these Kentucky guys always jam themselves together with the top recruits on that
Don't
college
say it.
team.
Don't say it.
None of them.
If you say BJ Boston,
You say BJ Boston, I'm going to lose it.
That's where we're going. Mini.
Oh my!
I mean, look how he's built. He's built just like Brandon Ingram. He played the year hurt. He can shoot. He literally fits perfectly in the NBA. He packs on 10 to 15 pounds. The dude could already score. He's going to be able to play for a second round pick in the NBA.
Gav, what don't you like about BJ Boston?
The 5th overall recruit coming out of high school last year. The dude doesn't just fall off a cliff that fast without being hurt.
Maybe what was his 3-point percentage? Was it that great? Because I felt like I watched a lot of Kentucky games and he didn't shoot for shit a lot of games.
He shot better in the end of the season.
Nobody in Kentucky shot well from 3. Like they were looking for anybody to shoot from 3, and I think he did come on late because I played him a couple times where he went well, but he's Brandon Ingram without a shot as a worse defender, and I think he's a little shorter than Ingram too, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not a BJ Boston guy myself. I just think he's one of these guys who had such an athleticism advantage kind of early on in the high school circuit that it panned out well, but the field is catching up to him and some, and I don't know if he has the mental makeup to really kind of reach the projection that people have him.
All right, Steve, what do you think? You're not high on BJ either?
He's just not one of my guys. I could see him panning out just because of the talent, and it is a second round pick, so I get the pick clearly. But I would rather pick a guy like Bones Highland from VCU, who I think he's coming into a draft as an incredible shooter. He was basically the only focus for every team that played against VCU, and he still put up 20 points a game and shot over 40% from 3. Excellent free throw shooter, so you'll love that spread, around 90%. Probably, a bench scorer, but a guy that I think is not a swing and miss pick, high-level bench guy, I think.
All right, Gavin, give us another second-round gem.
You ready for this one?
Let's hear it.
Oh, baby, this is one of my guys right here. Kessler Edwards out of Pepperdine. Okay. This is a guy that started out slow a little bit at Pepperdine, had a really good season last year. Okay. He is certainly a 3-level scorer, although the 3-point percentage wasn't quite what you wanted. I think he was like mid-30s, but long, lanky, 6'9" wing that plays really well in transition. And I think when he packs a little bit of weight on his frame, he's pretty skinny, that he could easily play small ball 5 and be an issue in the NBA. A really kind of versatile piece. I think that works well with a lot of teams. And if you ever watch like some of the tape, the thing was he had a little bit of the athleticism advantage a lot of times in his conference when you play against people like St. Mary's and whatever. But I don't know. I love Kessler Edwards. I think he becomes a very good rotational piece for somebody and pretty early on too.
All right. Steve, did you have any thoughts on Kessler, or did you just want to throw out another gem?
No, yeah, I like him, but not much else to add. I know Gavin's probably the highest on him overall. I'll change it up and go with the big man, since we've been talking about a ton of guards. Charles Bassey out of Western
I was going to ask
Kentucky.
about him.
All right.
Break it down.
So this dude is huge. So he's like 6'10", so not, 7'2" or anything like that in the NBA. Just a monster athlete. Came back, improved his outside shot, was over 30% this year. So not a one-dimensional big, which you love to see. He's a rim runner, block artist. I think top 2 or 3 in block percentage this past year. He's probably a bit too skinny at 6'10", 230 right now, but I think he's a guy with big-time potential. Who is the guy who came on for the Wizards late in the season? I see him.
Thomas Bryant or Daniel Gafford?
He's talking Daniel Gafford.
Gafford. I see him as kind of Gafford, except he's able to shoot some threes. So, his floor is an athletic rim running guy. But, if that shot at 30% right now is okay, if that ever develops, I think that he could help a team for sure.
Tyler, do you have any more second round gems for us?
I do, Spread, and I'm going to go international. You're going to love this one.
Yeah, I was setting this up.
Yeah, and this is going to be your guy.
He literally just described them, other than the fact the Bassie can only just shoot threes. This guy is a sniper from out there. Vrenz Blandenberg. He's 6'10". He plays point guard. The dude attacks the hoop like he's 6'4" and can pass like he's almost like Luka. He can see the passing lanes. He can shoot the three, and he can play in the post. The dude's got over a 7-foot wingspan, so he could let the guy beat him off the dribble because he's not getting to the hoop without the guy reaching the ball from behind him. So, I mean, the defense will catch up. He packs on a little bit of weight. The kid's going to be great. I think he's a steal.
All right. Did either of you guys see him? The first I heard of him was today when Tyler messaged me about him.
He sounds like an NBA 2K created player.
That's what he's going to look like next year.
Yeah.
All right. Gav, did you have any more gems for us?
If I had to go one more, I really like David Johnson out of Louisville. Sophomore. This is a kid that is a really athletic, stout guard that has really strong capabilities as playing both guard spots. Is certainly a strong combo guard option, strong defense, shot pretty well from the perimeter for a Louisville team that was a lot of times ball dominated by one guy. But I think a pretty high level athletic, high floor guy that you're getting in the second round here that is hard to go wrong versus looking at a guy like, Greg Brown or Aaron Henry or something like that.
All right. Steve, I know you had a bunch. Did you want to go ahead and just run off your list, and I'll jump in and I'll get these guys' thoughts on any of the players that you had circled that you think could be second round players that could contribute?
Yeah. I won't say much about him, but we didn't talk about Cam Thomas, possibly the best, just like pure fearless scorer in the draft. Won't guard anyone. So that's why he'll drop. But I think an interesting player going to the next level. And then the other three guys I had written down were Jeremiah Robinson Earl from Nova, undersized, savvy, talented big. Marcus Zagorowski from Creighton, probably too short, but over 42% from three on his career at almost 6 attempts a game. Floor general type of guy, bench point guard. And then Moses Wright from Georgia Tech, who probably had the most impressive, I'd say, February through early March of any player in the entire college basketball landscape. I mean, he dominated for a month and a half, a bit undersized, but just a truly gifted, talented interior scorer with all of the moves. He's just too small, but did shoot 42% from three this year. So I think he's a guy, if he's given a chance to prove that shot is real, could help a team off the bench.
All right. Gavin, did you have any thoughts on the players that Steve mentioned there?
Which one do you want first? No, we love Zagorowski. I worry about Zagorowski in that he has to have the ball in his hands, and so I think his ceiling is really as a second in command kind of point guard. I don't know if he plays both ends well enough to be a premier minute starter, but we love that guy. I don't know.
All right. So I'm gonna have one question for the panel before we kind of wrap up the second round discussion. We'll give out plays that we like, and then we will wrap it up. We gave out a lot of information today. I was looking forward to this, but boy, I mean, I feel like I've learned 3 times as much about the draft as I could. So here's my final question for the panel. In 4 years, will Luka Garza be a member of the NBA? Gav, what do you think?
No.
Steve, what do you think?
Hoping for yes, but no.
Tyler, any chance
He ain't getting
for
drafted.
Luka Garza? Is it not happening?
He's not getting drafted. But he don't got 4 years. He got 3 more days.
Sam Vecini's got a mock to the Knicks at 58.
His shots on Thursday. If he's not drafted on Thursday, he's not going to earn his way into the league because he's already put everything on tape, that he ever is going to.
Yeah, I can understand that sentiment. All right, Gavin, did you have a best bet or a bet that you'd like to give out to the troopers that sat with you for 2 hours breaking down over 40 players in the NBA draft? What would be your favorite bet?
I gave out that Sharif Cooper over 21. I also took a stab at Joel Ayayi over 40.5.
Okay.
This was a guard out of Gonzaga who shot extremely well from 3, and he had the one game in the tournament, I think, where he started off like 7 of 7 or 8 for 8 or something like that. If you look at those 3-pointers that he shot and most of the threes that he shot the entire year, he was butt-ass naked, wide open, nobody within 12 feet of him. Like, the random Joe at the YMCA could knock down a lot of those shots. So, yeah, his numbers look a little bit better. I don't know what he projects as. I think his defense was a little bit overrated too as well, being on another defensively sound team as a 21-year-old guy with an athleticism advantage over pretty much everybody that he guarded, in the WCC. So not the biggest Joel Ayayi guy. And again, trying to hit on the trend of there's so many good guards, especially when we talk about this, really all the way through. I was going to say kind of the 15 to 28 range, but it's really, up and down the draft, there is a litany of guards. Steve touched on the Cam Thomas. Like we call James Bouknight the best shot creator and shot maker in the draft. Cam Thomas made a higher difficulty of shot, than anybody in college. Now he's not going to have those reins in the NBA, and you worry about him playing off ball. But there's a lot of different spots, and there's so many good guards that I think Ayayi ends up being one of the guys squeezed out.
All right, I like that, and I can still get a good number, so I will join you on that right now. Steve, what were some bets you wanted to give out to everybody that made it this far through us on this NBA draft journey that we went on?
Yeah, so touched on it earlier. Big fan of the Kispert matchup bet against Jalen Johnson on FanDuel. It was -110. I bet it right before we went live, so hopefully that's still there. 2 more real quick. Day'Ron Sharpe isn't the guy that we talked about. He is a old school, big, back to the basket, not going to do anything else guy. His number is at 30.5. I've seen him in a couple mocks, between 29 and 28, 29, and 30. I just don't see a team using a first round pick on a player with his type of skill set when there are these impact type of lead guards that are going to be available at that spot. So that's Day'Ron Sharpe over 30.5 at -110. And then lastly, a second round one, Isaiah Livers from Michigan over 52.5. I just don't see him getting drafted. He's too slow. He's too fat. Can't shoot. Was kind of, I think, buoyed by the talent on that team. More of a media good player than an actual good player. I don't think that he gets drafted at all.
All right, Tyler, what is your favorite bet for tomorrow or for Thursday?
My favorite of them all is that top 4 exact order of Cunningham, Green, Mobley, Suggs. I think the first 3 picks are pretty much locked in. You're pretty much betting that 4th pick staying Suggs. And I just think it fits so perfectly that they just don't change anything there and that pick happens. I would play that up to almost -150. The other ones I like are the Jared Butler we got at under 26.5.
Fantastic.
I think that's a perfect play right there. I
love that bet, man. There's no way.
Another one I liked was that Franz Blindenberg we just talked about. I found a prop for him. They have his number at 57.5 on BetOnline.
Oh, I'll jump on that one right now.
There is no chance this kid lasts that long. Denver's going to swoop in late in the second round. This is their kind of guy. They'll swoop in on him. They'll trade for a second round pick, and they'll pick him somewhere in the early 50s, late 40s. So I think that's
all right. So the ones that we had talked about that I'm adding here, I didn't have this Joel Ayayi over 40.5, and I'm going to add. How do I say his name one more time, Tyler?
Franz Blindenberg. I'm probably
Yeah.
butchering the first name, but I know I got the last name right because I listened to him say it on the microphone like 3 times before I said it.
Yeah, it sounds like a blimp or something. All right. My favorite one is on Bovada. It's Moses Moody, top 10 at plus 150. I think there's a great chance he goes to the Warriors. It's hard for the Mets to see the Magic passing on him. And then if he's still around at 9, I think the Kings pull the trigger. So I get 3 chances there at plus money. I love it. Gentlemen, I wanted to thank you for hanging out. When we put this together, I didn't realize that it was going to be this in depth. But I should have known with the depth of college knowledge you have. I feel like I've learned so much more about a lot of these players, and you guys have really given me a head start for my handicapping for the offseason when I'm starting to plug all these players in and see how they're going to affect the NBA teams that they're drafted to and how much they can possibly help, the win shares of each team. So thank you for having you on. Gavin, anything else before we get out of here?
No, man, that's it. Appreciate you having me. Good show. Always good to get the college basketball juices flowing.
Oh man, I loved it, man. I mean, you're informative, strong takes, lots of great information. So thanks for joining us. Steve, another one who just came in and knocked it out of the park. I mean, you keep hitting like this, you're not going to be in the box and Wrigley. They're going to bring you up to the plate. You keep hitting home runs like that. So thanks for being on. Anything you want to leave the people before we get out of here?
Not much. I'll just drop all of the props that I took in the Discord. So if you're a Run Pure member, there's a couple extra that, just for fun that we hit.
Fantastic. And I will be tailing those as well. Tyler, anything else that you wanted to mention about Alperen Sengun before we go?
Not Alperen Sengun, but for the guys that can use FanDuel for draft betting props, I personally don't think James Bouknight goes 6 to the Thunder. I think it's Kuminga. They have Kuminga and Bouknight line at 6.5. The over for Bouknight is minus 112. The under for Kuminga is plus 130. I think you play the under on Kuminga and the over on Bouknight, and I think you win them both on Thursday night. Because I think we see Bouknight end up a Warrior.
I mean, that would be wild, too, his scoring to go next to Stephen Clay. I really can't wait to get on here and talk to you about how these teams are going to look after this draft, because I really think this is going to be a draft that we're going to feel the ramifications of these players adding these teams, 3 to 4 years from now. I think there's going to be a ton of playoff contributors, and we're going to be talking about a lot of players from this draft class. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm not sure the full schedule for Run Pure Bets this week, but I do know that JJ and I will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern talking some Olympic tennis. And since it's such a long show, we'll get you the rest of the information for what's going on at Run Pure Bets there. But if you want to be a member of the Discord, find out about the Steve's bets, the ones that he didn't give out on the show that he's given to the Run Pure Bet members, go over to runpurebets.com. Use the promo code BETS25 off. That's going to give you 25% off the first month. You get a little idea of the value that we offer, becoming a member, being part of the Discord, getting the plays, being able to watch the live shows. It's really the best bang for your buck when it comes to sports gambling information. So runpurebets.com. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out, and Run Pure.